After the spring storms of 2025, Bowling Green counted more than 30 new sinkholes, forcing the city to launch a $900,000 emergency repair program, 10 times their normal budget. One Park City resident thought he'd only lost a few shingles in the storm, but when he walked into his backyard, he froze. A jagged crater, 15 feet across, had opened where his garden shed stood the night before. The shed wasn't broken. It was gone. His fence leaned inward, as if the earth was dragging it toward a throat. People here have learned to look for warning signs. A hollow echo when you step on grass that looks perfectly normal. Fence posts tilting overnight, sometimes 3 inches in a few hours. Circular cracks spreading across driveways the morning after heavy rain. But none of these signs reveal the real danger. Here's what most residents never see. The land beneath them isn't a solid block of stone. It's more like a mental cheese, full of pockets, tunnels, and cavities carved by water moving in total silence. What looks like stable ground is often just a thin shell stretched over an empty space. Barron County alone has over 1,900 documented sinkholes, but geologists believe thousands more are forming right now, hidden under nothing but a few feet of soil. So here's the choice that freezes people in place. If geologists told you there's a 200-foot void directly under your foundation, would you stay or sell before the next storm hits? Drop your answer below. I'm reading them. But here's the fact that changes everything for South Central Kentucky. This region sits above voids that aren't measured in feet, but in miles of interconnected passages. Mammoth Cave is 426 miles long, over 1.5 times longer than the second longest cave system on Earth. It's not a tunnel. It's a continent turned inside out. Cavers entering the deeper passages quickly stop thinking of it as a cave and start thinking of it as a world. One with cliffs, rivers, winds, and darkness so complete it feels physical. A veteran guide recalls standing on the edge of a chamber, so large his lights couldn't find the opposite wall. It felt like staring into weather, he said. Not rock. Weather. What's officially documented is 426 miles, and growing by several miles each year as explorers map new passages. Geologists estimate the total system could exceed 600 miles, possibly reaching 1,000 miles of interconnected tunnels beneath South Central Kentucky. In the next few moments, you'll see exactly how close this underground giant gets to the surface. Some chambers, like the Gothic Avenue section, rise over 40 feet high and stretch hundreds of feet in length. With ceilings so vast they create their own weather systems from temperature differentials. And these are just the areas we've mapped. The search for unmapped passages isn't leisurely. Just 2 years ago, a mapping team was forced to abandon a newly discovered side passage when a sudden rainfall triggered a localized collapse, blocking their exit for hours. The cave doesn't just hold secrets, it fights back. Ceilings flex. They breathe. They erode. One explorer described a fingernail-sized crack running nearly the length of a football field. If that narrows or widens by even a fraction, he said, the entire roof changes tension. Would you trust your life to a 40-foot limestone ceiling that has been eroding for 10,000 years, knowing a single heavy rain could collapse your only exit? Yes or no? Drop your answer below. Because the real danger isn't the emptiness, it's the water moving through it. That water has already decided how the surface above will respond, and sometimes the ground gives way without warning. The first sign something is wrong is often silence. Then comes the sound you never expected, a low, groaning crack beneath your feet. February 12, 2014. Security cameras of the National Corvette Museum captured the moment the floor simply disappeared. 8 irreplaceable classic Corvettes, worth millions, plunged into a sinkhole 40 feet wide and at least 30 feet deep. It sounded like the building was being torn apart, recalled an employee. Not just the cars falling, the earth itself screaming. In the next 30 seconds, you'll see what happens when solid ground abandons you, and why no structure is truly safe. Then, a more recent incident. April 2025, Bowling Green, Kentucky. One resident watched a newly formed sinkhole swallow her neighbor's driveway in under 20 minutes. One of more than 30 collapses reported after the spring storms. The asphalt folded inward like paper collapsing into water. The collapse didn't wait for anyone. It demanded attention, fear, and action. The ground, the one thing humans trust, has become an unreliable accomplice. People hesitate, second-guessing every step and every decision. Survivors describe a permanent phantom echo, a low-frequency hum they now imagine beneath their floors. After the April 2025 storms, Bowling Green's sinkhole repair budget jumped to $900,000, 10 times the usual allocation. because collapse is multiplied faster than crews could fill them. Bowling Green, already famous for the Corvette Museum disaster, has become a national case study in rapid sinkhole escalation. The danger isn't abstract. It hits wallets, infrastructure, and daily life. Have you ever felt the ground move beneath you? Even for a second? Drop yes or no in the comments. I'm reading every one, but here's what survivors never see coming. The collapse isn't the start of the disaster. It's the end of a process that began decades ago, invisible, unstoppable, and quietly growing beneath our feet. You saw the destruction. Now meet the invisible architect behind every collapse. Water's hydrostatic pressure building deep underground, silently squeezing the ground until it gives way. Beneath south-central Kentucky stretches a hidden labyrinth, silently and patiently carved by water, dissolving limestone drop by drop across millennia. Beneath their feet, most residents never realize the earth acts like a sponge, stretched thin over a vast network of underground pipes, the limestone caves. The sponge is the soil, the pipes are the caves below. Rainwater infiltrates soil rich in organic material, absorbing carbon dioxide and forming carbonic acid, H2CO3. This weak acid steadily dissolves the limestone bedrock, SiSO3, carving tunnels and hollowing out support beneath the surface. Then the pressure builds. Heavy rains flood these underground chambers, causing hydrostatic pressure to rise beneath the soil. This pressure lifts and strains the thin soil layers, causing ceilings to flex and cracks to widen. With every storm, tunnels expand, and the surface moves ever closer to collapse. This process is like a precise timing device, a giant rotary lock slowly turning. One tick floods the caves, raising pressure. Another tick diverts runoff into new areas, stressing the ground. Yet another tick lowers the water table, pulling buoyant support away. When these ticks align perfectly, the lock flips, and the surface collapses. After the unprecedented spring 2025 storms, Bowling Green experienced over 30 sinkholes opening within days. Engineers observed small voids merging underground, rapidly swallowing streets, yards, and driveways. These events weren't random disasters. They reflected the steady, predictable reshaping of land by water, pressure, and time. Understanding this process changes everything. Every heavy rain is no longer just weather. It's a silent test of the underground roof's strength. Living above this invisible threat is torment, a ticking time bomb indifferent to walls, foundations, or human hope. Storms grow stronger and more frequent each year. Is your city getting closer to an invisible collapse? Type likely if you believe it's a real threat, or unlikely if not. Vote now in the comments. Though unseen by the naked eye, technology shines a light on these hidden threats. LiDAR, ground-penetrating radar, and dye tracing map the voids beneath us. The urgent question remains: can we detect and stop these dangers before the next storm turns deadly? When the ground can't be trusted, humans turn to light, waves, and invisible tracers to reveal what eyes can't see. LiDAR aircraft sweep laser pulses across the land, stripping away trees and buildings to reveal bare earth with better than 25-centimeter resolution, precise enough to detect depressions smaller than 20 centimeters. To most people, they look like harmless bumps. To Karst experts, they're signals that a limestone roof is thinning below. On the ground, technicians push GPR arrays across yards, roads, and parking lots. Electromagnetic waves travel underground and bounce back from the layers beneath, forming a rough subsurface image. Moisture and clay can blur the signal, but when the radar shows a long, continuous dropout where solid rock should be, it points to one thing: an open void. But even GPR can be fooled by the phenomenon experts fear most: bridging. That's when soil forms a temporary arch over a growing cavity. The radar hits the arch, reads it as solid ground, and completely misses the collapsing void beneath. Technology marks safe. The Earth disagrees. To map what neither lasers nor radar can see, scientists follow the water itself. Harmless fluorescent dye is injected into sinkholes or disappearing streams. Miles away, and sometimes days later, the same dye emerges inside Mammoth Cave. It reveals the invisible waterways tying backyard collapses to a vast cave network stretching across entire counties. LiDAR maps the subtle surface depressions. GPR scans the shallow subsurface. Dye tracing tracks water's hidden routes. Together, they triangulate the truth. Neighborhoods perched on fragile limestone roofs, roads crossing unstable chambers, homes resting on pillars of soil that may fail without warning. But there's a cruel reality. Voids evolve faster than mapping crews can follow. Entire landscapes can shift in months, sometimes in days. During the spring 2025 sinkhole surge, crews raced to identify new risk zones. Yet before one street could be secured, new collapses opened nearby. The ground was moving in real time, shaping, breaking, reshaping beneath the city. If a high-tech map revealed your home balanced over a thinning limestone roof, would you trust it and stay, or leave before it's too late? Type stay or leave and let us know. Sinkholes seem sudden, but in Karst country, collapse is centuries in the making. Slow dissolution of limestone, drop by drop, storm by storm. What happens when the ground beneath your feet becomes a fragile shell, no longer a solid foundation? Scientists warn that the recent surge in Kentucky isn't a temporary spike. It's an early preview. Warmer winters, heavier rains, and more water forcing its way into cracks are adding stress to roofs already weakened by generations of erosion. Everything is accelerating toward a critical threshold. Geologists call this the Karst tipping point, when an underground network becomes so fragile that collapses don't just happen, they cascade. One failure triggers another, reshaping entire landscapes like falling dominoes. And this isn't limited to the countryside. Cities like Bowling Green, Elizabethtown, even parts of Louisville sit above the same dissolving limestone highways that feed Mammoth Cave. Suburbs expand, pavement spreads, stormwater systems push even more water downward, loading a landscape already stretched to its limit. Mammoth Cave, long seen as a symbol of permanence and stability, is actually a testament to geological fragility. These vast underground voids show that this landscape is meant to cave inward. Collapse isn't the exception, it's the inevitable destiny of Karst. So the question becomes, how do people adapt when the surface is no longer a guarantee, but a temporary, brittle shell? If the world under your feet slowly dissolves, would you move away, adapt with technology, or accept the risk? Tell us your choice in the comments below.